Audrey. I am not really a PHP developer. I've sort of built some WordPress sites back in the day, but that's pretty much the extent. But I just recently started as a trainer at Maiden Academy with Mike, and he sort of invited me along. So I'm going to try to keep this super sweet and short because 5 minutes is my goal. So here we go. That's me. I'm also from Dallas, Texas. So howdy, hey. All right. So Gatsby is part of like the Jamstack family, I guess, of this new way of building websites using JavaScript APIs and Markdown. And it's essentially just a tool to build websites. Yeah, so here we go. Why all the fuss? It's a super quick way to build and deploy a website. It does a lot of the sort of build pipeline for you. It's the developer experience. Just gonna say, is really great. It sort of leverages, it's essentially just React under the hood. So it's got React, GraphQL, Webpack, all sort of built in there for you. Because it's React, it sort of leverages the amazing routing features that React has. So routing between pages works like a charm. It also has this idea of being this content mesh system where you can just pull data from lots of different places and sort of grab that with GraphQL and then pre-render it and serve it up as a static site. It's really easy to implement spas and PWAs using Gatsby. So single page applications, obviously, and PWAs. I am so used to calling them that, jokingly. I can't even remember what it stands for anymore. Anyways, moving on. Lightning talk. Okay. And yeah, just it's a great development experience. It has hot reloading and it supports TypeScript by default, which I'm a fan, so everyone else should be as well. So here's a handy little diagram. Essentially, like the big ticket thing of Gatsby is you pull in data from lots of different places, including CMSs like WordPress and Drupal, which I'm pretty sure are both PHP, at least WordPress is. I don't really know Drupal very well. And then it sort of, sort of uses static queries using GraphQL to grab all that data, builds it, renders it on the server, builds it on the server, and then deploys it. And you can sort of choose your deployment tool of choice. There's lots of different ways to sort of plug in that. So static site generator is kind of what Gatsby is all about. I won't go too much into detail. I think when I first gave this talk, it was to people more new to web development, but I'm assuming most people here kind of know what static site generators are. So it's kind of Gatsby fits into this client-side rendering with pre-rendering. So it is a single page app. It sort of pre-renders all the HTML and CSS on the server and then serves it up. Static doesn't mean dead though. You can obviously have interactivity and JavaScript on the page. But yeah, it will render all of the static content before it's served to the client. So in the Gatsby universe, some interesting things. One of the great things about Gatsby is all of the user contributions in terms of like plugins, starters and themes. You'll do, if you do decide to go and try to build a Gatsby site after this, you'll quickly encounter plugins. They're used for a lot of different things, including grabbing data from like WordPress. There'll be a WordPress plugin. There'll be plugins for lots of different things, and you can sort of like build your site based on your individual needs. So Gatsby, it's awesome. What do you need? You need Node, Get. You just install the CLI. It does help if you have a basic understanding of React and GraphQL, but obviously you can kind of just, the starter files kind of like get you going. But yeah, there's just 3 commands to create, develop, and then build, and obviously like, compile your HTML and CSS. So a couple of things to note in the project structure. Gatsby config file is where you register all of the plugins that you want to use. There's one for using React Helmet. Obviously, there's one for using WordPress and kind of pulling in data from various sources. Components kind of exactly what they sound like, different components that you can reuse in your pages. One of the great things about pages, it will automatically create routing. Any file you put in the pages folder, you can access that URL. It will just grab the name of the file and create a page for you. And hooks, which is one of the amazing things about it, you can write your own static queries as hooks and sort of grab data that way. Yeah, another great thing is the link component, which you can use to route within your site. It will prefetch all of the contents for any of the link components that you have. But obviously, if you're linking outside of your site, you'll need to use the good old anchor tag. But yeah, it will prefetch content using that link tag, which is great and makes it feel super quick. Yeah, so again, data sources you can use, WordPress, literally anywhere, and there'll be a plugin so you can interact with it using GraphQL. You don't have to use GraphQL with Gatsby. I've never tried using it without GraphQL, but there are definitely ways, and I think there's probably a lot of documentation on how to do that if you're not a fan of GraphQL. And yeah, so getting your site onto the web is super easy. I've only ever used Netlify with any Gatsby site I've built. So you can literally use version control systems. You can just push to, for example, a master branch, and then it will run the deployment for you, which is great. And one of the things I love about Gatsby is sort of does a lot of the DevOps kind of build pipeline for you. So it just makes development really fast. And couple of gotchas that I found when creating Gatsby sites. If you are pulling data from like a CMS that's using GraphQL under the hood, you do need another, you need the GraphQL plugin, the Gatsby plugin, to interact with other GraphQL APIs. It will sort of like create this stitched together GraphQL schema. So you can query literally everything in one go. And another thing about TypeScript and static queries, which I won't go into because it's a bunch of PHP developers, so you probably don't care. But yeah, that's a little, very hopefully short intro. I don't know how I did on 5 minutes or less, but yeah, the end. Any questions?
Brilliant, thanks very much. Yeah, if anyone's got questions, pop them in the chat or the Q&A channel. It's not actually a question. Oh yeah, apparently Ollie's got quite a few projects that use Drupal and JSON API and Gatsby. So there we go. Anyone got any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that intro into Gatsby.